Today, I have 5 under-the-radar signings for the New York Jets in free agency. Let's get into it. Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today I'll be talking to you about free agency. Before we get started today, I just wanted to mention that you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to the Just Jets podcast, the Clips channel, and all of that fun stuff. And of course, check out the Patreon. Yesterday, we were talking about DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, those rumors. If either of those guys are going to be a fit, I shared their player cards and a lot of fun. Check it out, link in the description. Okay, so these are 5 under the radar guys. So what that means is they're not going to be like top, either one, they're not going to be top tier, or number 2, they're not going to be guys who have necessarily drawn a ton of love to the New York Jets, either by the fans or in these mock off seasons or anything like that. So don't say this is Matt, oh, this is his dream. No. I am trying to find some value and give you some under the radar guys, because you're not going to spend big on every position. It's just impossible. One, I mean, there's a salary cap. And number 2, you're competing against 30 other teams or however many other teams in free agency in order to sign these guys. So if they miss out on some big guys, maybe there's some value, and I'll try to give you some of those guys. The first one on our list is a tight end. The Jets desperately need a tight end. And what about Moe Ellie Cox? He's 28 years old, and he is from the Indianapolis Colts. Now, he is someone who just never seemed to get that starting opportunity. He is a very high upside player, and I guess probably not going to be super costly because of that. But last year he had 316 yards, 4 touchdowns, and like I said, never really had a big role in an offense, but he's extremely athletic. And one thing we do know about Joe Douglas is he likes himself some athletes, which is exactly what Moe Ellie Cox is. He's a freak athlete. He played college basketball, for goodness sake. He's a good blocker with really good hands, which is an added bonus. And he has the run after the catch ability, which is obviously a really big help. To me, he's I would look at him as a high upside at number 2. I think if he's your number 1 tight end, there's massive issues. But if you paired him with a Trey McBride, let's say, then that's 2 pretty damn athletic tight ends who can catch the ball and block just fine. So I don't think he'll be super costly at 28 years old, probably like a 2-year contract, maybe around $10 million. So $5 million per. Maybe it gets up to $6 million per, but I think probably right there in that range. Again, not a high tier option, but that's not what this is about. And you're kind of gambling on his upside at that point, and his athletic traits kind of make it a little bit more palatable. The second guy on my list is someone Joe Douglas is very familiar with, Derek Barnett, who is still only 25 years old. It feels like he's been in the league forever, and he's only 25, which is a good thing and something that Joe has done numerous times. He had just 2 sacks last year, which is obviously down, but the 2 years prior, 5.5 and 6.5. And Joe Douglas was with the Philadelphia Eagles back in 2017 when he was a first-round selection. Obviously, probably hasn't lived up to the first-round hype, but again, something Joe Douglas has done is taken these guys who've maybe underwhelmed in other places, former first-rounders or some guys who had some higher ceilings, and brought them in and tried to make them a reclamation project. One thing I will say, even though his sack numbers dipped the last year, and he's never really gone above that 6.5 mark, his pressure numbers remain pretty consistent around 20 to 25. And he's good against the run, which is something the Jets really struggled with last year. And I mean, you're more than likely losing a guy like Foley Fatukasi. I know he plays on the interior, but still, you need these defensive linemen to be able to play in the run game. So there is a little bit of upside there. And again, you're kind of betting due to his age that he can get better. And that's happened before. A lot of times these pass rushers don't hit their primes until their late 20s. That's when they really start to figure it out. So you'd be trying to hope you get some bang for your buck, but he's probably like a $10 million a year player. So maybe 3 years, $30 million. Again, he's not going to be like that $15 million a year guy like Carl Lawson was a few years ago, because he hasn't put up that kind of production or even anywhere close to it. But a steady guy, and I think would be, good. And I don't think that would stop you from potentially drafting a young edge rusher like Jermaine Johnson or, any of them, Kayvon Thibodeau, any edge rusher at the top of the draft. So it'd be an interesting swing, and hey, maybe he becomes a rotational guy, and he's probably better off in that kind of a role. Is it expensive? Yes, but with the amount of cap space the Jets have and with the amount of guys on their rookie deal still, you could survive that for a year or two and then move on at that point. Number 3 on my list is Casey Hayward at 32 years old. Matt, a corner at 32? Are you crazy? Maybe a little bit, but he is perfect for this scheme. He absolutely thrives in zone coverage, which is, you know, what he did with the Chargers for all those years. Last year, he played with Vegas and was still very productive. He allowed just 2 touchdowns and 388 receiving yards last year. He can also play the slot, but over the last few years, he's been on the outside and you haven't had to worry about him at all. It's probably a 1-year deal at his age. I don't think he's cashing in on a big money deal. So like 1 year, $7 million, maybe somewhere in that range. So not nearly as costly as these JC Jacksons or these other guys, but is a stopgap, you know, signing who would come in and be a number one for the short term, help groom some of these young guys in the room like Bryce Hall, Brandon Eccles, Michael Carter II. And then you probably look for your longer term option after that. Again, none of these guys are like super, yes, go all in for them. They're going to change everything. But again, if we're looking for bargain bin or like some lower tier guys to fill out your roster or try to get some value, even Casey Hayward at his age can do just that for you. So again, this kind of fits the bill here. At linebacker, I'm going to go Anthony Walker Jr. He's 26 years old. Linebacker, plays for the Cleveland Browns. He can cover, which is one of the things that, well, Jets linebackers suck at. They always have for a very long time, have not been able to cover either tight ends or running backs out of the backfield. He can do just that. Now, he struggled a lot in 2020, but bounced back really, really nicely with the Cleveland Browns last year. And like another guy who's just a really good athlete, Joe Douglas has shown time and time again that he is willing to bet on athletic traits, and Anthony Walker has those. And sure, maybe he's not someone who you want to have a massive starting role, but if you sign him to, let's say, I don't know, 2 years, $9 million, so like $4.5 million a year, and he's your third linebacker, you add someone in the draft who you're confident in maybe like the first or probably not the first round at that point, maybe the second round with either pick 35 or 38, then you're really starting to get something here with your linebacker core. And he can rotate in and be good in coverage. Quincy Williams, who you probably want to keep around, is not very good in coverage, but he is good in the run. So maybe those guys kind of platoon a little bit. And again, just kind of rounding out your roster and trying to find something that you really don't have in, a linebacker who can cover. And the last guy on my list is going to be Cedric Wilson, the wide receiver from the Dallas Cowboys. No, it's not Amari. No, it's not CeeDee Lamb. No, it's not Michael Gallup. But Cedric Wilson at 26 years old had a little bit of a breakout last year, 602 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, he's an interesting player because at his size, he's 6'2", 220. A lot of his work is done in the slot. So he is a bigger slot, but I'm assuming can play on the outside a little bit. And he is almost in a way like this I feel like would be a Braxton Berrios replacement who would probably get some similar money, but he's someone who's thrived in screens, a little bit of a gadget guy, has good speed with the ball in his hands, and he can throw, which I know you're like, what, why are you talking about that? But Mike LaFleur's a madman. He likes those plays where, you know, the trickery, and Cedric Wilson can throw pretty well. So that would add an extra element to this offense. Obviously, I think the Jets should try to bring back Braxton Berrios. If the money gets absolutely bonkers and you can't bring him back, then okay, you bring back a guy like Cedric Wilson, maybe like, I don't know, 2 years, 13 million, 6.5 million AAV, somewhere in that range for him. He's your wide receiver 4-ish at that point, and then you draft a guy at 10, whether it be a Traylon Burks, a Garrett Wilson, Drake London, whoever you like the best. But he would just add an extra element there. So those are 5 under the radar guys, or guys who haven't really been talked a lot about with the New York Jets. Let me know who are some other under the radar guys that you would like to see the Jets target. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe here if you are new, and I'll talk to you next time.